Here's a comparison that sounds made up. Relative to body size, humans have larger genitals than gorillas, animals roughly 2 to 3 times heavier than us. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, actually have smaller ones than we do, proportionally. That ranking feels backwards. Gorillas look like the obvious answer to biggest and strongest. They aren't. The trait that wasn't about size at all, it was about something almost nobody expects. Primatologist Alan Dixon spent decades comparing genital anatomy across primate species, and the pattern he found wasn't about dominance or strength. It tracked something else entirely: mating system. Gorillas live in small harem groups. One dominant male, several females, almost no competition from other males because the dominant male physically excludes rivals. When there's no competition for mating opportunities within the group, there's no evolutionary pressure driving anatomical investment in that direction. Size, in that context, is metabolically expensive for no reproductive payoff. Chimpanzees live at the opposite extreme. Highly promiscuous groups where a female may mate with multiple males in a short window. But chimps solve that competition differently, with enormous testes relative to body size, built for sheer sperm volume, racing to outproduce a rival's contribution rather than outsize it. Their evolutionary answer to competition was quantity, not proportion. Humans sit in a stranger middle ground, and that middle ground is where the real story lives. Human mating systems across most documented societies, historical and modern, tend toward pair bonding, but with enough overlap and flexibility that some degree of mating competition remained a real evolutionary pressure for a very long time. Not the total exclusivity of a gorilla harem. Not the open competition of chimp promiscuity. Something in between, and human anatomy reflects exactly that in-between state. Proportionally larger than the harem-based gorilla, but without the extreme testes to body size ratio chimps evolved for pure sperm competition. This is where a second layer of the theory gets stranger. Visibility itself may have mattered. Unlike most primates, human males lack a baculum, the penis bone present in nearly every other primate species, including chimps and gorillas. Researchers studying this loss have proposed it's tied to a shift in human mating strategy. Without a baculum, sustained erection depends entirely on cardiovascular signaling, which is a costly, honest signal of health that can't be faked mechanically the way a bone-supported erection can. Some researchers frame this as a form of sexual selection through display and mate choice, rather than through direct male-to-male physical competition, meaning females, not just other males, may have shaped this trait over evolutionary time through consistent mate preference. None of this varies meaningfully by ancestry or geography, despite a persistent modern myth claiming otherwise. That myth has circulated for centuries, frequently attached to racist pseudoscience with no basis in actual anthropometric data. Every rigorous study that has attempted to measure this across populations has found the same result. The variation within any population is far larger than any measurable difference between population averages, meaning the population you happen to be born into tells you essentially nothing. What the science does support is something far more interesting than a myth about geography. A species-wide trait shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of shifting mating structures, mate choice, and physiological signaling, not by which continent someone's ancestors lived on. This reframes the entire comparison. Gorillas didn't lose size because they're weak. They lost the evolutionary pressure to invest in it, because their mating system removed the competition that would have rewarded it. Chimps didn't gain volume because they're promiscuous by nature. They gained it because their specific competitive structure rewarded raw sperm output over anything else. And humans landed somewhere in between. A species whose flexible, complicated, occasionally jealous approach to pair bonding is written directly into anatomy that predates language, agriculture, and every cultural assumption layered on top of it since. Which leaves an odd inheritance sitting quietly inside a trait most people never think about biologically at all. It isn't a badge of individual fitness. It isn't a marker of ancestry. It's closer to a fossil, a physical record of exactly how competitive, how flexible, and how socially complicated early human mating actually was, still present in every human body walking around today. The next time this trait comes up in casual conversation, dressed up as a joke about geography or ancestry, The actual answer is almost more interesting than the myth. It was never about where anyone's ancestors were from. It was about which mating system they were solving for. And the answer has been the same for every human population on Earth.